When you were born, what was your name?
Well, it's still my name. I'm William Lewis Trogdon, but when I was 13 years old, I had a chance to take another name. My father, in the 30s, took the name Heat Moon as a way of honoring that side of our ancestry, English, Irish, and Osage, pretty much in that order. My older brother came along and wanted to have an additional name to go with his name of David Trogdon. He became Little Heat Moon, and when I came along about 6 years later, I wanted to have a name too, so that makes me Least Heat Moon.
We won't find, other than Mark Twain, anybody else from Missouri who's as well known as an author that was born and raised in Missouri.
There are some books and writers who really enter your consciousness before you meet them and before you read them, and it was that way for me with Blue Highways.
So I was in the newsroom of the Memphis Press Scimitar, which was the afternoon newspaper in Memphis. There was another reporter there, and he had started filing these stories from weird places like Nanky-Poo, Tennessee, and Hot Coffee, Mississippi. These are great stories, but how did you get this idea? And he said, haven't you read Blue Highways?
Actually, in that day, the Rand McNally Atlas had the primary roads red and the secondary roads blue. That's how you got the name Blue Highways.
You think of travel literature as guidebooks to various places, some travel essays. Yeah, that's kind of what he's doing, is traveling, but it's not really what it's about. It's about history, and it's about social culture.
I would say that William Least Heat Moon was really ahead of his time in the sense of paying attention to rural America. And we've seen in recent times that sometimes people in rural America feel forgotten, but he showed the importance of those places.
I think the secret to his writing is all of his books are based on a journey. And journeys are inherently exciting or interesting because you don't know what's going to come next. And that's something about the River Horse trip, is that there were so many times along the way when it could have ended. I mean, it was not an easy thing to accomplish, a trip across America by boat. And I was with him when he finished in the Columbia, and in the book you see him pouring the water from the Atlantic into the Pacific.
When we hit the Pacific Ocean, and by that I mean mile marker 8, buoy 8, which formally marks the end of the Columbia River and the start of the Pacific, I couldn't speak. I'm a writer and I had no words.
I approached Heat Moon in 2006 and said, hey, here's some photos I took of part of your route out on the Oregon coast. My son and I'd like to retrace your trip and do a photographic book of it. And in fact, he would sit down and edit my writing.
I had an inspiration to try to recreate a small version of Blue Highways with my students at Vox magazine. When he talked to them, he really spoke about two things that I thought were meaningful. The first thing was just the importance of craft. He also spoke to them a lot about persistence, and he reminded students that, you know, the important thing as a writer is to persist, to keep writing, to keep revising, and not to give up.
Beware of thoughts that come in the night. I think the first line of Blue Highways is genius, and I just wonder if you'd talk a little bit about the importance of the first line of a book, or do you think it's important, or was it hard for you to come up with that line?
But that genius took 25 drafts to get out.
I think his writing stands out for the attention to detail and to place. His writing is almost cinematic or photographic.
You know, I think if I owned a bookstore, I would file him maybe in a couple different places, certainly regional literature, but also American history for several of those books. You know, and in another way, you know, Heat Moon, I think, was a philosopher.
He's an avid Mizzou fan. So he roots for the Tigers no matter what, and anybody that plays Kansas.
Congratulations, Bill, on your induction into the Mizzou Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Will, on your induction into the Mizzou Hall of Fame, and keep writing.